The Astros' defense of their World Series title is not off to the best start, but you know what? Taxes aren't due yet. It's still early. I'm not worried, and neither is Brett Chancey of Locked On Astros. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, look at my lower third. You can call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for over a decade, and this is now my fifth season here with the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And when you are at home or on your car or doing chores, I'm not going to tell how to live your life. Tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB, or check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On Astros with friend of the podcast, Brett Chancey, also known as HTown Wheelhouse. What hat are you wearing?
Well, since we're about to go to Minnesota and it's cold up there, this is a winter version of the Houston Astros hat. Got a little snow on the H and the star. And so I figured since we're bringing hot bats, we're going to look to melt some ice in Minnesota.
There we go. You're turning to the series that could have completely changed the fate of many teams and players and everything in the COVID year when everyone seemed to be invited to play in the playoffs. And the Astros, they said they had a losing season. They had 60 games. Okay. It's the equivalent of where a team would be around Memorial Day. But the Twins had home field, and it looked like it was really one of those series that turned in the first inning. Remember that? Where the Twins looked like they were going to smack everyone around, but they couldn't get the big, huge hit to put away Greinke. And the Astros rallied back, got a bases-loaded walk against, I believe it was Sergio Romo, who just retired. Wonderful career, Mr. Romo. And the Twins wound up losing that. And then the Astros wound up beating Oakland. And everyone said, oh, my God, are the Astros going to do it again? And they didn't. But for a lot of Astros haters, it was missed it by that much. We have the Astros. I'm sorry, my disrespect. The defending World Series champion Astros and the two-time defending American League champion Astros were my pick to win the World Series again, which means the Astros will not win the World Series. They won today. They beat Detroit an 8-2 score. But this was coming off a day where the day before, I know they had an extra inning loss. It was either yesterday or the day before. Right. And they split the series with Chicago. They're going to Minnesota 3-4, which, again, taxes aren't due for more than a week. So obviously the season's young. But they did exactly come out of the gate blazing at home against an okay Chicago team and a bad Detroit team, heading to play a very, a red-hot Minnesota team, one that's lost the last couple of games, but to some great pitching. Is this just a fluke, 7 games, and if this happened in the middle of July, no one would cough?
I just think that months that start with the letter A, the Astros tend to not play super well in. If you look at their August and April months over the last few years in this run, they typically start slow. On top of that, you've got Altuve is out, Brantley is out, McCullers is out. We did lose Verlander. And when you get into the season, you've got to replicate what you had last year. Last year we had starters going 7 innings. We were not taxing our bullpen. When the bullpen came in, they were getting holds. The offense was firing. When you lose a 6-7 game to Detroit, You score 6 runs and get 9 hits. Last year, you would have won that 6-3 because your pitchers would have held the line. 6-4 to the White Sox. They went down over the weekend. Actually, they won 6-4. They lost 3-6. They scored crooked numbers in most of these games. They just weren't putting it together. The relief pitching's not been great. They just had 2 quality starts back to back. One was a loss by Framber. One was a win by Javier today. But look, Sully, when it's all said and done at the end, I think the cream will rise to the top. And I know that there are teams at the top right now that, look, give them credit. They've won games. The Rangers have come out hot. They took advantage of the Phillies' terrible pitching right now. And, any team in the West has a chance to get hot at some point in the season. But there's no panic here. And here in a few minutes, I'll share a quote from Dusty because, everybody's, well, Dusty, why'd you play this guy? Why didn't you play that guy? And so everybody's wanting Dusty to treat it like it's a video game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say one thing. Again, they've had it's 7 games in April. This could, the greatest team, the greatest regular season team I ever saw play in my life was the 1998 Yankees, who went on to stampede into a World Series title as well. They got off to a terrible start. I mean, there have been many, many World Series champions, including the last few that got off to, lousy starts. So this isn't even a lousy start. This is just, they haven't come out blazing. Whenever a relief pitcher, however, starts off the year super clunky, Hector Neris hasn't looked good. And I saw him pitch in the game one of the games against Detroit, and I think one of the games against Chicago, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, he did. Yes.
And Hunter Brown didn't look my pick to win the Rookie of the Year. Hunter Brown didn't look great. And look at they've bullpens are weird. Bullpens, a dynamite pitcher one year can, it looks like that catch lightning in the bottle can come back and haunt a team the next. And a lot of times bullpens need to be rebuilt on the fly. And a lot of times it's what made the Giants run in the 2010s so remarkable, that they kept the core of that bullpen together. Sergio Romo, Santiago Casilla, Jeremy Affeldt, and Javier Lopez basically stuck together. Brian Wilson came back in, but like that core of 4 relievers stayed pretty constant. That's the exception. Most of the time, you're playing the coconut shuffle, trying to get the right relievers in there. That sentence made sense to me. This is a big the thing that makes me that you have to keep an eye out this year, and you and I talked about this, and I'll shut up eventually, that this is an important year for the likes of Framber Valdez, because his training wheels are off. He doesn't have Greinke in front of him. He doesn't have Verlander in front of him. There's no more of these, the big veterans like a Charlie Morton or a Dallas Keuchel pitching on this team. And so it's his pitching staff to lead. And you're right. Longer innings out of the starting rotation means fewer innings where you have to wear down the bullpen. It's a symbiotic relationship. This is now Framber Valdez's pitching staff.
It is his, and he's the leader. Christian Javier really could probably easily slide into that role if Framber wasn't there, just because the way he approaches the game. But you talked about Hector Neris. Ryan Stanek. He does have a win to his credit this year, but he's only pitched 2.2 innings, only 2 strikeouts, but a 6.75 ERA. Last year, he set a single season record with a 1.15 ERA club record for the Houston Astros. And when your bullpen is taxed the way it is early on in the season, you're going to see results like this. But I didn't see the Detroit Tigers coming in taking 2 out of 3, even with some of the struggles against the White Sox, because their offense was so abysmal coming in. But it seems like Detroit and Baltimore, when they're down, They're definitely not out when they play us. It's like they come to play. AJ Hinch probably knows how to scout this team. He probably still knows some of the personalities in the clubhouse. And so I think there's something to be said about that. Like today, you had Cesar Salazar, a rookie backup catcher, get totally exploited. On the base pass, they were running all over him today. You didn't have Martin Maldonado. As much as people in Houston like to say his defensive tools have declined, Martin Maldonado still keeps runners from moving as often because they were often going. So, the Tigers showed me today, though, if they can get their young core together, if they can get their pitching together, they're not the worst team. I mean, they've got some bright spots. If Torkelson can hit, if their pitchers can hold the line, they had a guy, Garrett Hill, get his first save, and one of the batters he faced was Jordan Alvarez. And so, look, they're all major league players, and that's what we have to remember at the end of the day. They all come to play. They all come to win. But let me tell you one of the bright spots. Corey Jolks, a local kid that we had him on the show 2 weeks ago from Clearbrook High School. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
From Clearbrook
Well, I
High
was going
School.
to say, hold on to that for a second.
Okay, I will.
Just hold on for a second because I'm going to tell you something. You're talking about a championship caliber team right here. And for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And guess what? That's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories to where you should go, eBay Motors is where you should go. That's right, eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right. First time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check, and you will know what part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We're here with Brett Chancey of Locked On Astros. I'm not going to lie to you. I could use a little boost of energy because I can tell we're going to go a long way. But when I need a boost of energy, do you know where I go? Do you know where I think to? Do what I reach for? What do you think I reach for?
A Built Bar.
Built Bar, or as we called them growing up eating Built Bars in Massachusetts, Built Bars. Okay, maybe we didn't have them back then.
Built Bar.
Boy, I wish we did. The Built Bar. Give no my Built Bar. No my Garcia Para Built Bars. Now, let me tell you something. I've got my favorite bars or puffs, and my favorite bar is the raspberry bar, and that got creamed in Built Bar March Madness. But that's because the competition is so great. There's so many fantastic flavors. You got to try Built. It's the best protein bar out there ever, or as we said, Massachusetts, ever. Seriously, they're so amazing. You won't think they're good for you. You won't believe it. You'll indict it. Take it to court, and then they'll prove it in a court of law. What makes it, Your Honor? Built Bars, what makes them so good? Well, they're high in protein, low in sugar, and covered in 100% real chocolate. Objection! No objection. 100% real chocolate. Real chocolate, I'm telling you. And they're so fabulous. I love the raspberry, but do you like the coconut puff? You like the cookies and cream puff? What's your favorite one, buddy?
My favorite is the churro puff, actually, because in Texas we love churros down
Oh man, that's a hot time. It's a hot time in Texas. Remember the Alamo and remember the churro when you buy your Built Bars. So you go to built.com or you can go to Sam's Club. Where else can you get them?
You can get them at Walmart as well.
Sam's Club and Walmart. Thank you, Walmart. Or you can go to Brett Chancey's house, bang on his doors and HTown, I need my Built Bars. And that's right. That's exactly what you do. It's a hoedown. We've gone from Massachusetts to Texas, from Boston to Texas to Seattle to Melbourne, Florida, home of the Brevard County Manatees. That's right. We love our Built Bars all over the place, including right here in Pasadena, California, overlooking the historic Rose Bowl. Built Bars, they're still good.
Well, look, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you know this, but I was actually born in Melbourne, Florida. Yeah, so I'm from Melbourne. So there you go.
I don't know if you know this,
The
but
manatees and the sea
yeah,
turtles. Yeah,
and that's where we shot the indie film that I directed. I'll believe it was shot in Melbourne, Florida. So there you go.
very cool.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
I know Brevard County well. I know Brevard County very, very well. I have nothing but fabulous memories of Melbourne and Indy Atlantic and Merritt Island.
Yes.
And all those places. So
Yeah.
so there you go.
Yep. HTown
Welcome to
Wheelhouse
Locked
Senior.
On Melbourne.
He won a state football championship in high school there at Mel High, 1966, I
Wow.
believe. Yeah. So there you
There
go.
you go.
Some
There you
history. But let me tell you about this Corey Jolks kid. He's hitting 316, Sully.
Please do.
He was a surprise addition to the roster. The kid's from literally our backyard, 5 minutes from me. He grew up in Friendswood, Clearbrook High School, University of Houston, was picked in 2017 in the draft, and he's made his way up. Last year, he was 31 home run, 30 stolen bases guy, and just hustles. He plays the game right. I've actually met his family. It was a pleasure meeting his parents, talking to him. And like I said, we had him on the show a couple weeks ago. He's hitting 316. You've got the bright spots of these young kids and these people that aren't supposed to be contributing, being contributors on this team. And I think that's what helped today, because in this game today, Sully, we had three guys do the same thing. We had Chas McCormick, Kyle Tucker, and Jeremy Pena all go 2 for 4. Both of their hits, one was a double, one was a home run. They all three did that in the same game.
And you're going to get that. You're going to have to get that, because you're going to, when it's hard to repeat. It's hard to repeat. And in order to do that, you need to start to rely on people that you're not expecting. And this is not a new thing. This goes, you could go back to, the days of Connie Mack, pulling out a Howard Emke to start in the 1929 World Series. That's right, folks. I just dropped Howard Emke on your lap. Surprise star of the 1929 World Series. That's right. You didn't think that. Welcome to Locked On Howard Emke. But here is something that, look at, you're going to have to get used to this. Here's something you're going to have to get used to, Brett. You're like, oh, the Tigers, they didn't look very good, but they played us well. Oh, the Orioles didn't look that well, but they played us well. Guess what? When you are the defending champs for the Tigers, especially, who's their manager?
AJ Hinch.
AJ Hinch. Oh! When you have a team, and again, I'm not going to go down this path, except I'm going to say this. 29 fan bases hate the Astros. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. One fan base doesn't hate the Astros. They're in Houston. The rest of them hate the Astros. And those fan bases are drooling to boo the Astros. And those teams coming into Houston or welcoming Houston to their facility want to beat the snot out of the Astros. Guess who they used to do this to? The Red Sox. When the Red Sox were really good, they would circle that on the calendar. People want to beat. And I'm not even going into the stuff in the past. I'm just talking the defending champs.
Oh, yeah.
Back to back.
Well, I mean, definitely.
American League pennants. You've got a target on your back, and you're going to Target Field. Just think about all the targets there. And you are going to see teams that on paper look like garbage. And yet they're going to get up for this series. They'll rest the starting pitcher if they know it means get them ready for Houston. You're going to have a bigger crowd at Houston. You're going to hear people booing at Houston, and you're going to see players get surprised me at all that Detroit played them so well.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to lay down from. They want to beat the champs.
Right. And I've been saying this since before the season started, that 2022 was such a great year and that we didn't deal with a lot of injuries. Everything was smooth. Everything went well. Our starters went deep into games. Our bullpen was stellar. Our offense was really, really good. And this year, with starting with the three players that we have on the shelf right now on the IL, and other people having to make up for that. The bottom 4 of our lineup is not as strong as our top, 5.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a championship season that I think we can still have, and we can still get to the World Series and still win, but it's going to look a lot different than 2022. I think at the end of the year, when the Astros are crowned back-to-back World Series champions, that we're going to appreciate 2023 more than we appreciated 2022. 2022 was, okay, this is our title. This is one no one can take away. But 2023 is going to be like, this team scratched and clawed like they've never scratched and clawed before for a title. And it's going to be even more earned, I think, than 2022 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, you're probably right. And you know what? And I picked the Astros to win. And again, much to your horror, because my picks are always wrong.
The Sully curse.
I
Wait,
know.
did you pick us last year?
No, I picked Toronto. Well, I picked Los Angeles I picked Los Angeles to win the whole thing, and I picked them to beat Toronto in the World Series.
Oh, see, that's why Toronto got beat by Seattle. I didn't know that was your fault.
It was
Well,
my fault.
We're going to reverse the curse.
The last time I haven't picked the World Series winner correctly before the season this century.
Maybe you're just a bad guesser.
Well, and a couple of times I picked the Yankees. Once I picked the Red Sox. Yep. I picked the Red Sox one year to win it all.
Okay, going along with that philosophy, if Yankees fans always pick the Yankees to win and they never win, I
remember there was one year where I was always picking them wrong, and it looked like the Yankees and the Phillies were going to be the best teams. And I said, nope, I'm going to just throw two wild ones out there. And I said the A's and the Cincinnati Reds. And so it was Yankees, Phillies. And yeah. The last time, every once in a while, I'll pick the correct pennant winner.
Okay.
I picked the correct pennant winner. In 2013, I thought the Cardinals were going to win the World Series, and they wound up losing the World Series to Boston, but at least they got in. There was a period of time there I said, bet against the Cardinals at your own peril. I just said, no matter what, I'm just going to pick the Cardinals every year, because they kept getting to the World Series, the League Championship Series every year, going, well, and no matter who left, they just filled it in with someone else. But I didn't pick one for the COVID year, because that just didn't make sense. It's like, what are we judging?
Yeah, that was that was a weird season though. That was,
I didn't even want them to play. I mean, I wound up enjoying that they did play, but we were still in the middle of all this stuff. But anyway, that's a whole different story. And you know what? I just think it's so rare that I pick a World Series winner correctly. And speaking of so rare, is there something you want to talk to us about, Brett?
Yeah, let me tell you, our new sponsor is So Rare. It is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. This is right in Sully's wheelhouse. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Real managers truly own their fantasy experience. Collecting, buying, selling. I can hear Sully now. I want this guy. I'm going to sell him high. You sold him low. I'm getting all the fame from the global opponents, and he's going to win epic awards. Win or lose, they're still your cards, Sully. And you know what? They don't even cost. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance. Collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next level competitions and rewards. So they have game ambassadors that they have brought on, Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez. So if these guys are going to promote this stuff, why shouldn't we? So this is what I want you to realize is So Real has MLB game weeks happen twice weekly in a span of 3 to 4 days at the end of a game. You get rewards. You can include cards that have scarcity, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, Sully. You can get a VIP experience like meeting MLB stars. Sully meets Julio Rodriguez, the J-Rod Show, live in person on the next Locked On MLB. So head to SoReal.com/locked on. That's spelled SORREAL. FanDuel.com to draft your team for free. Your players get your lineup. Start competing today with epic rewards. Again, sorare.com/locked-on to start playing today. Sully and J-Rod, you heard it here first.
I couldn't have said that ad read better myself. All right,
Because it's so rare.
It's so rare. It's so rare. Welcome to Locked On So Rare. I thought that sponsor was about steaks when I first saw it on our roster. Hey, we're recording this. Pulling back the curtain a little bit. We're recording this on Wednesday evening. The Astros and Christian Javier won big against Detroit. It was actually closer than the final. It was one of those games where it was closer than the final score indicated, but they won by 8-2 final. Thursday's game against Minnesota is already postponed. So it looks like they have some nasty weather going on there in Minnesota. So we're going to wait till Friday to see. I believe it's Urquidy is pitching for
that is correct
for Houston. And so what are we going to start seeing some of these players coming off the IL? How much longer do we have to wait?
I believe you have probably a couple weeks till I think Brantley can come back. I don't know if the plan is to have him go to AAA before he comes up. You may see him towards I think the end of April is when they're really eyeing him being back with the Astros. Lance McCullers reported that he's throwing at 90 feet and he's ahead of schedule, but there was no timetable given. And then Altuve, they refused to put him on the 60-day IL. They only put him on the 10-day IL. So that could be a sign of things that maybe he's not out as often, but he will not be able to begin baseball activities until June. So that may mean that you could go deep into June before you see Jose Altuve out there on the field. Brantley will be your soonest, then maybe Lance McCullers. But Jose Altuve, I don't want him back until he's fully healthy. And I think he comes back and just has a monster second half.
Who has impressed you the most? I know we're only about a week into the season,
right.
But on this young season, who has impressed you, been the biggest positive impression you've seen this year?
Well, I just think Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez together in this lineup with the shift gone. I mean, I'm calling them one of the dynamic duos, and something I went over on the show is I compared Tucker and Alvarez to Judge and Stanton, Trout and Ohtani, Rodriguez and France and Seattle. And I mean, these guys right now have 5 home runs, 18 RBIs, only 11 strikeouts, 9 runs scored. Both have an OPS over 1,000. Both have an on-base percentage over 400. And when they are clicking, when they are firing on all cylinders, it is very hard to beat this team. And that's why it's important for the relief pitchers to make sure they're on the ball. So early on, I love these two guys just in the lineup. We need to sign Kyle Tucker to a deal. I don't know why we haven't. We need to. And then this guy, Corey Julks, hitting 316, impressing. And look, for looking things in the positive, Jeremy Pena broke out of an 0-for-19 slump with a 2-for-4 day today with almost had 2 home runs. His double was off the top of the Crawford box wall, the little short porch we got there in left field, which is a nice little added bonus for us, home field advantage. But Alvarez and Tucker, I mean, what can't you say about these guys? Alvarez gunned a guy down at home from left, from left field, and Tucker's glove, he's robbing home runs. He throws people out. And when they get up to bat, it's almost a sure hit every time. So, and Jose Abreu, he's gotten a hit every game as a Houston Astro. He's a 7-game hitting streak right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I don't want to put you on the panic mode, but the magic number for the Angels and Rangers to finish the season tied in first place has been reduced to 156. So time's a ticking. You gotta leapfrog those two teams. And I don't know if we're in early April. You know what? You got the wild card to lean back on, but
that's right.
We'll see.
Hopefully there's a play-in game this year, like March Madness.
Exactly. Well, look at hey, Brett, thanks for jumping on the show. Tell people where they can listen to your show.
Yeah, you can if you go to YouTube, look up Locked On Astros. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me at HTown Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where we're always positive, always Stros. Find our co-host Eric Heisman, Eric Talk Stros on Twitter, and Eric Heisman on Instagram. Literally, go to a social media app and look up Locked On Astros, and I promise you'll find us. You'll get to listen to us, and even if you're not a fan of the team, please check us out, especially when we come to your town, because we may have some relevant facts to help you get ready for the series.
That's right. And by the way, thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen. Your second listen, obviously, make that Locked On Astros. For your third listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. You can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the cute and lovable and huggable and beloved from coast to coast Houston Astros with Brett Chancey, a.k.a. HTown Wheelhouse of Locked On Astros. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.